Do you find yourself absolutely hating your image in the mirror? You're poking yourself, you're pinching yourself, you're looking at the way you look at certain clothes. If so, welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, we are going to break down what is true body dysmorphia, what it is, what are the signs of it, and then we're going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to treat it. So if you're ready, listen up and lean in as we elevate your mind. Ooh. Body dysmorphia. Hi.
Box.
If you looked up body dysmorphia definition, you would see me most of my life.
Same.
And you want to know who diagnosed me with body dysmorphia?
Myself. Who?
Adrienne.
Adrienne?
When we were 19, she goes, I think you have body dysmorphia.
Really?
And I just had started, it's a psych class, but it's on like the personality disorders and anyway, and I was like, oh wait, I know what that is. And I was like, yes, also yes. It's me.
Wow.
Yeah, Adrienne said that when we were young. I mean, we're like 19 or 20. She goes, because I don't see what you say about yourself.
Wow.
And yeah, so thanks, Adrienne.
Thanks, Adrienne.
Okay. For those of you who do not want to hear our bullshit, you can look at the show notes below and click ahead to the actual segment on body dysmorphia. But for now, we're just going to talk about our lives as being women and soon to be mothers and people who love reality TV show or person who loves reality TV
and soon to be mothers.
Oh yeah, I'm a mom to puppies. So if you don't like that shit, check the show notes below. Skip ahead. Also, if you could, please subscribe to our channel. Give us a follow on anywhere you have your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Give a little click-sees. And then after this, give us a little review of this podcast or like us. That would be awesome. So thank you. New show alert.
Okay.
So I was in my all the spooky feels this weekend. And I was like, let's watch something scary. Now, my husband hates scary movies.
I don't like scary movies at all.
I love scary movies. Ugh. So I was like, okay, well, let's watch a thriller. And then we found Ratched.
Ratched?
Yes. Savage, bougie, Ratched. Ratched is based off of the Nurse Ratched character in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And it is a prequel to how she gets into the hospital, I guess. It is fucking crazy. We binged the entire season. It's gory. It's lots of sex, lots of gore, very psychologically thrilling. It has Sarah Paulson. It has the gal from Sex and the City that is the lesbian in real life, but also lesbian show.
Nixon.
Yes, ma'am. It has the kid from Twilight.
I don't know.
The wolf kid.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Taylor is his name. Taylor something. I loved it.
Really?
Loved it. Yes.
I might watch
It's all about this mental hospital and like how they used to treat people like lobotomies and hypnosis. And like, it's so bad though. There's so much bad shit that happens, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if they fucking mental hospitals, we'll call them what they were back in the day, did not do a lot of this like crazy shit.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, they're like, oh, that didn't work, so we're just going to burn the body. Whoopsie. Whoopsies. That no big deal. And then, yeah, so we have one episode left. I'm anxious to see where this goes because it's
been popping up on my Netflix like pretty regularly, and I always think like and then for whatever reason I don't watch it, but I will.
Yeah, it's a good show, especially in spooky season. So I would highly suggest Ratched. Savage, Boony, Ratched. The other thing that I'm really excited about is my new chair.
Yes.
So my butt cheeks kept hurting by sitting in my old chair. And this chair has this very cushiony bottom, but it also has a place where I can recline my feet.
Oh, that's nice.
You should get it. I'm reclined right now.
My opportunity for a chair is very slim because this room is slowly becoming a child's room.
Where's your office gonna be?
In the child's room.
Oh,
So yeah, like I sit on the ball usually, but even I can't sit on the ball for 4 hours though, because that hurts my hips and pelvis.
Back.
Yeah, it just after it was like, so now I'm standing. And then I got rid of, or I didn't get rid of, I took out the walking pad and I put it in the closet for now, since I'm not doing that because that hurts my pelvic floor. So, and then the night newborn care specialist, is, as she's called, will sleep in here too. So
Oh, she sleeps in your house?
she sleeps over and then brings the baby to me and then takes the baby away from me. And then I go
Wow.
back to sleep. I know. I didn't realize that's how it worked. So Michael had
I don't like this.
like, what? I want to sleep.
Now after watching this Ratched show, she's a nurse.
Oh, this, I don't know.
Do you have does she have a fingerprints print clearance card?
I don't know.
How do you know her criminal background?
We're just
How
welcoming.
do you know she's not going to steal your child?
I know. We're just welcoming a bunch of random people into our home, apparently. Victoria. Let's see.
Okay, no, for real. There's no like clearance background check.
No.
Have you watched a Dateline episode?
Yeah.
All of our lawyers and judges who are listening right now are like, Amanda. We don't have a lot of people in law enforcement. We do have ex-military. We have lawyers and judges. They would love to chime in. Please, everyone, let Amanda know where she can look up this person's back.
Yeah, can you work?
I have to have as a therapist, fingerprints clearance card every 5 years. Obviously, a background check.
Well,
I mean, they do that on Love is Blind. You're not doing this for the person staying in your home.
Michael told her we have guns. So
this is my
He was like, "Are you okay with guns in the home?" And she was like, "Yeah, I don't mind." Like,
that doesn't matter if she's gone in her car with your child.
That's true.
That's those type of ladies too. They are in that industry. Actually, my OBGYN told me that they're okay. You want to hear some fucking shit?
Yeah, of course.
There's this woman who has been banned from the hospital, but this particular client is new to that hospital. And she came into her clinic claiming that she was X amount of months pregnant and all this weird shit. And Christine's like, "You're not pregnant." Like, and she was like given a whole breakdown of her pregnancy.
What?
Yes. And she got to the hospital and they were talking about the woman who's trying to steal babies. And guess who it was?
That patient.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that's so crazy?
That's it. You know what's crazy to me? That you have not looked at a background check of these.
I know.
People. You better before you let them in my baby's house.
I know it's your baby that we're raising here.
Yes. She's my surrogate, meaning she's also going to raise the child.
Yeah. And forever. And provide a lot of
financial, emotional.
In fact, you're just going to be the fun mom.
Exactly.
Like
yay.
The divorced. What do they call it? Like the divorced dad. The
Disneyland dad.
Yeah, Disneyland dad. You're Disneyland mom with your big new titties and all of that.
I'm not getting breast implants.
I will. Okay. Anyway.
What else?
You said you wanted to talk about the heroin thing.
Okay. So heroin chic is back, you guys. So remember back in the day, you had like Naomi Campbell and Kate Moss.
Yes. Kate.
Very heroin chic looking. And I blame this on Ozempic because Ozempic can basically make people look like they are just a bag of bones. Right. Well, the funny thing is everyone wanted the ass and the curves until Ozempic came out and they're like, "Oh no, we've got to change it because we don't have any muscle on our body." I'm over exaggerating, but you get it.
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of like if everybody's looking this way, then they want that to be the trend and that to be the look. So what are we supposed to do?
Did you see Christina Aguilera?
I did. Were you the one that posted that?
I was.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh.
She looks horrible."
It's so sad. That's so not good. Let's see. What should I?
Well, and to think that like looking that way looks good, right? Like talk about body dysmorphia.
I know.
that is body brain dysmorphia. Like you are so far gone. And I would say, you know, in body dysmorphia, it's more around like seeing your flaws, but
Yeah.
like how skinny is she going to get before she stops? You know,
Well,
she
that's
looks horrible.
let me see, Christina X. Her name is X Tina right now. It's so sad because you know she's talked about battling her weight, hasn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. So
But
then, wow,
she's,
that doesn't even look like her. Holy cow!
yeah. And she's doing like a Barry's boot camp marketing thing there.
Oh, okay, Barry.
Yeah. Barry's boot camp did not get you there.
Wow, this is amazing. This isn't even her. Wow.
Her face looks terrible.
Yeah, there's a lot of injections, which I'm not opposed to. We all know I love my Botox, but this
Me too.
is yeah. Oh,
So heroin chic is back.
that's unfortunate.
But we as a community here at the Mindset Mirror Connection are going to go against the grain, and we are going to be strong chic, muscle mommy chic.
Yeah.
No,
We're
I don't
just
like
going to
muscle.
be you chic.
Yes, you chic, girl.
Yeah,
Whatever
you
you
chic.
look like, you chic.
That is
Yes.
so unfortunate. You know, that's so unfortunate because so going back to like body dysmorphia and our own struggles with it is like a lot of my, not a lot, I don't want to say a lot. Some of my dysmorphia came from the way like Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears and like all of them looked at the time of growing up because they weren't like, there wasn't like a thick girl back in that day. Like you could say Jennifer Lopez, but even then that was a little bit later for me. And so now I'm seeing like where it comes full circle and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I'm not like a teenager right now. But oh my gosh, like I remember wanting like leaner thighs, but didn't know how to do that, you know, because there wasn't ever going to be a way for me to get leaner thighs.
Right.
So now that it's like she's coming back into this, it's like, oh my gosh.
Well, celebrities love their Ozempic and they're just like, okay, well, we're going to make this standard be just shapeless and look like we're on heroin. Yay. We love that for not.
I wonder if guys are noticing a difference in girls' appearances right now, or if they have like no idea what's happening.
That's interesting.
You know
I mean,
what I mean?
My husband obviously is biased because we talk about this shit all day long.
Right.
In my friend group, we don't have anyone who's using this. If they are, it's like a microdose type of situation because I've been convinced them to microdose.
I don't think I have anybody either.
Yeah, so I don't know the answer to that, but I was talking to a client. She goes, you know, everyone I know is on these drugs, and their answer is, well, it just stops the food noise. She goes, well, if that's the problem, then maybe you should get to the food noise, which sounds very much like body dysmorphia, but just around food, that obsessiveness, right? It's basically like the nutrition. Well, no, it's the food side of body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
It's like constantly thinking about it, you know, picking things apart.
Well, and I would say most people have a food noise and like
to some capacity.
Yeah. And I mean, yes, some people have it overwhelmingly so. And then, but most of the time that food noise is you're hungry and that you haven't been eating and that you're starving or your body's looking for nutrients. And
there's that physiological aspect, but there's also the fact that it's a thought.
Yes.
The thought pattern. And like I say all the time, you are the thinker of your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. And food noise can very much be managed without a GLP-1.
Yes.
It is, again, it's a cognitive behavioral struggle. And we do that all the time. Food noise is something that we focus on a lot. And a lot of it, like you said, is just feeding people more throughout the day, feeding them the right foods, and also teaching them there's no good or bad foods, blah, blah, blah. But we'll see. We'll see what happens because this is, again, we talked about it on our girls' trip this weekend of like, you can use this here and there if you want to. Especially, I think, more importantly, if you are in a larger body and need support, but you should be doing the other work.
Yeah.
People are using just Ozempic and their bodies look like that, like what's on your screen.
Oh my God. Well, and
Ira,
there's
you should put a picture up here, by the way,
Yeah.
of
Ding.
Xtina.
Well, and there's that, but there's also like, I see this is, I have a couple gripes with some of the fitness podcasts right now too, because they're talking about it in a promotion kind of way, which I think is great, but not really emphasizing that 90% of the people don't need it. And I think a lot of times what I'm seeing with the more fitness minded people of who do the calories or who do the exercise and they have the routine, they're so fearful of making adjustments right now, even though they don't like their body, that they're looking for the thing that these other people are promoting. And so what I mean by that is they're so fearful of like going into a surplus right now because they already don't like their body composition, but they don't know how to sustain it. So they think they'll go and get the Ozempic and that'll just kind of help with that little bit.
And doctors are promoting it.
And doctors are promoting it. And it's more so of like, okay, you can do that. That's fine. But like, again, for our topic of today, actually, this correlates really well, is how you're viewing yourself. And I think even when you take this medication, and I know this from working with clients who have, is that even when they did take it or do take it, it doesn't cure how you perceive your body in the mirror. Because again, like we say, it's in your mind. And so unless you're going to take the time to work on that in conjunction, which most people won't, whether that's because of cost barrier or they don't think that's the actual perceived barrier, right? That's been kind of my, these last 2 weeks of, you know, how with coaching, you kind of go through phases with clients. Like, it seems like everybody's got this for a little bit. And then right now, there's a lot of like perceived issue from people of what they think the issue is, but when we actually get into of what the actual issue is. So the perceived issue is, I'm doing all the things. I don't want to move the needle and go up in calories, and I don't want to back off training. Therefore, I'll just do this instead, and that will solve the issue. Or I'm trying to focus less on what my body looks like, and I think this would take away that image of that, but I want to cut for a little bit just to get a little bit leaner. And it's like, but we're still trying to patch a situation where you actually just have to go through and like do the work. And it's unfortunate, right? I wish it was easier, but this Ozempic and GLP-1s or whatever, I think it's just another manifestation of that, unfortunately.
Right. Well, just getting into that, let's talk about the dysmorphia, because I would imagine someone with strong body dysmorphia is going to use something like a GLP-1, especially if they know like, oh, I can lose all this weight, and they associate feeling good about themselves, having less depression, having less anxiety, having like higher self-worth or self-esteem, that is going to come from changing their bodies, right? So the clinical definition of body dysmorphia is a mental health condition characterized by an obsessive focus on flaws or defects in your appearance, which may be minor or non-existent. It often leads to significant distress and impairment in social, occupational, and other areas of your life. It is important to note it's not just the desire to improve your appearance. It involves a distorted self-image. As I talked about, it includes excessive worrying about weight, skin, hair, and other body parts. It is classified as an anxiety disorder in the DSM-5. And so it is, as I mentioned, it's kind of like food noise for your body. It's constant body noise. And like with food noise, you're not sometimes hungry. Your brain just tells you that you're hungry. Normally because you have an underlying emotional barrier, right? Or you're not managing your stress, or your subconscious is going crazy and your inner critic. With body dysmorphia, it is that obsession around this part of my body that looks so terrible. And I'm going to share something that happened to me today I thought, wow, this will be really good to talk about. So I have for probably I don't know how long I've had this body check. Right around my belly button, if I look down and I see a certain like fat around my belly button, I'll know if I'm lean or not. And I did it today.
Oh.
And I feel fine. I feel great about my body, but it just happened and I caught it, right? I caught it in the moment and was like, no, we're not doing that right now, which is my favorite reframe, which we'll talk about later. We're not doing that right now. And this part of my body around my belly button does not define my whole body, but that is something that I still do to this day. Whereas before it was my thighs are so big. I want them to be smaller. I don't have a thigh gap. And I would see myself, I have body dysmorphia in two ways. I'm not as lean as I actually am, but I actually have it in a flip too, which is hilarious. I have struggled too with thinking I'm looking really strong when I'm not.
Yeah.
So it's just a fucked up image of my body in general.
Yeah, I would say the same. Because even I think, was it last week we were talking about where I didn't think like I had like structure in my arms, and then I watched some video and I was like, oh, yes, I do. And it's funny that you say that because I was going through like my Google Drive a couple weeks ago. And there was a video in there of me deadlifting. When we had just moved into this house, so it had to be 2022-ish. I think we've been here that long. And I just had a video, like for some reason in the Google Drive, and I pulled it up and I was like, that's crazy, because at that time I would have told you, no, like I'm not lean enough. And I look at that video now going like, you look pretty lean, like you look pretty good. And then even it's a lack of reflection of knowing where you're actually at, because even Michael, I was looking for a certain photo. So I was going through all the photos that we've shared, and I sent him a couple of me naked, as you do for your husband.
Not me.
Oh, you don't? Oh.
No.
I try.
I don't think he cares.
Well, sometimes when Michael's gone, I like to throw him a surprise bone. And so, so then I was going through and I was looking at these pictures and I was like, God, I was super lean, but it still wasn't enough. Like I didn't think I was that lean. I really, really didn't. And then I'm looking back and I'm like, oh, wow. Like, and I'm so grateful that I have worked on that and continue to, because even like pregnancy, obviously I'm not lean at all. And I don't really look at myself going, oh, I just go like, whoa, like that's a belly, but there's a baby in the belly and I'm working through that. But I mean, I've definitely had I still have this. And that's it's like one of those things, again, what we'll tell clients, it's not that like, even with emotional eating, it's not that it just goes away one day, right? But is it less? Is it more frequent? Are you able to acknowledge it?
Right.
But stop it. And it's interesting that I'm glad you put the anxiety disorder in there, because when I saw our notes, I was like, oh, shocker. Like,
weird.
Yeah, I run on high anxiety and I have body dysmorphia. Wow, that's no shit. They combine.
Well, and I want to explain the difference from just like negative body image to like body dysmorphia, right? Where you may not like a certain part of your body here and there. But it's not as, again, this food noise comparison comparison would be the fine word, is really helpful, because it's that obsessiveness. It's so many things that we do to help kind of this, if you think of like obsessive compulsive disorder, where I have all of this fear around my safety, and then I have all these checks in place, and then I recheck, and then I check again, and then I'm still scared, or I have to do this thing in an effort to relieve my anxiety, and this thing that I do is not healthy, like pull out my hair, or again, checking the locks on the door. These are common things that people will do with like obsessive compulsive disorder. That is very different than saying, oh, I wish that my belly was a bit smaller.
I think it's, what you're leaning towards is how much are these behaviors about checking your body and being aware of it impacting your day to day? Or are you able to just like be like, don't like that today, but okay, I move on. Right. Because the person who can move on is not obsessively thinking about it all day. Where for me, I did obsessively think about it all day.
All day.
Or all compare myself all day. Yep. And like
Go ahead.
avoiding certain situations, right? Socially. Like I don't want
Mhm.
to go out because I'm look this way and so therefore I'm not comfortable, or I look this way and it's too much effort to have the mental capacity to be like, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter when I'm out. Like it's too much energy to do that. So it's easier just to stay in or avoid a
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah. So you've already kind of touched on those checking, we talked about that, but just for
Mhm.
our audience, like body checks, so like pinching, poking, sucking in, moving around. That's something that someone with body dysmorphia does constant. Oh my God, I did this all the time. Constantly checking the mirror.
Yeah.
Any mirror. I was friends with every mirror, but not in the way that statement is for. That
Right.
statement is for someone who loves the way they look. I was like, oh, I got to make sure I look perfectly. Constantly grooming. Maybe that's where my like what we talked about last time of
Mhm.
always needing to look put together, right? It's important to me. And then that comparison of other people. The thing about it too is like for me, my dysmorphia was less when I was very, very lean, but only when I was getting the reassurance from other people.
Really?
Yes.
See, I
So
didn't like the reassurance.
yeah, I was like, "Oh my god, you're so fit. Oh my god, I want to." This happened to me at the gym. I want to look like her. I overheard this gal saying
Uh-huh.
that to her trainer, and he goes, "Well, that has nothing to do with her workouts." And I was like, he goes, "That's all nutrition." I was like, "Good job, buddy." Also, if you really want me to tell you, this is obsession. So you don't want to look like me, lady, because I was
Yeah.
gross. But I would, or just, do I look okay? Do I still look okay? Is this still cute? Or do I look fat in this bathing suit? Oh, I look fat now in this bathing suit. Like, oh no, I don't, just that constant need for
That's
validation.
yeah, it's interesting because that yours again, going back to like our characteristics of yours was more external of seeking that, where mine, I felt so much shame and internal of my head that God forbid I would like mention it to somebody. Like,
Mm.
yeah, it was like to me, it was one of my like best kept secrets, but I didn't recognize that it was body dysmorphia, right? I thought it was just me being fit. But now that I know, like other people around me that were closer saw it or
Oh
knew
yeah.
about it. But it was like I didn't want anybody to point it out.
Well, I think that's why Adrienne, because now that I'm thinking about it, I would go home and change in the
Oh,
middle of an event because I
what?
felt, oh yeah. Or I was the queen of just like going and buying a new outfit in the middle of something. Like I'd leave and go buy a new outfit because I didn't feel comfortable.
Huh.
Yeah. Luckily I was a bartender and I made some money.
Yeah.
Um yeah, and I did that once in the recent past where I was in Palm Springs. I don't remember what I was wearing, but I did go home. I was like, my shorts were really short though. That was
Oh,
why.
that's
I
different.
don't, yeah, I, I'm weird about that. So I went home and I changed,
Yeah.
but that was the only time where like I had to leave a situation and change. I usually do it all of
Really?
the time. Right. The other part, like when someone is struggling with body dysmorphia, this is going to be a perfect candidate for cosmetic
Mhm.
procedures. Right. So I have a close friend who, when we were very young, got liposuction.
Whoa.
And she was very much a very fit girl. She was the level 10 gymnast. And she had stopped gym at this point. We were still cheering together, but her diet sucked. And she knows this if she's listening. And she got liposuction and they did a botched job because we were 19. Her parents didn't pay for it. They did a botched job and it just fucked her head up. It fucked her up, and she just thought, well, I'll just get liposuction and it'll make me pretty again. Like for her, like a lot of her like self-worth was on the seeking reassurance. Like there's this,
Uh-huh.
okay. So I hope she doesn't listen to this. When we were kids, like college, she'd be like, I swear to God, 2 weeks before an event, up until that event, it was, I'm thinking about, and she would say it like she hadn't asked me before. And it was very specific, a Halloween outfit. She was going to dress up like Britney Spears,
Okay.
like the little school girl. I'm
Sure.
thinking about doing that. And like my bra, what do you think about that? And like, she would ask me again and she would ask me again and she would ask me again. Then when she did it, it was asking how she looked, asking how she looked, asking how she looked. And then pictures were like, don't show anybody the pictures until I see them, because we had to develop them back then.
Of course.
And like I see it now, and then the liposuction, and I was just like, luckily I was a psych major. My God, she struggles so much. And she's the girl. Remember I talked about, you guys, like I had these 2 friends that all the guys liked. She was one of them. She was one of them.
Huh.
And yeah, it makes you sad. I know she's obviously in a better place self-esteem wise, but that was, the cosmetic surgery was a big one.
Well, that's like it's interesting because you go to different parts of the country, right? And there's different levels of cosmetic surgery. And I think where we live here, it's a thing.
It's a rite of passage to move to Scottsdale.
Yes, it is. It really is. And you could easily compare yourself and be like, oh shit, I need to get this, I need to get that, because that's what you're seeing. And so that's the look. But then you go to like Amarillo, Texas, and there's not really any cosmetic surgery happening.
Oh, I mean, I traveled the country, and it's definitely not as rampant as it is in Scottsdale.
So
other than Utah
has it?
I was very surprised. I was like, who are all these Barbies?
So yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Beyond that, like your thoughts, right? So if we break down your thinking patterns, obviously does not come with positive reinforcements or positive talk.
Right.
It's incredibly negative. And it's just, I want you to think about like a lens, like, focused in on one spot of your body and just tearing it apart. And listen, guys, you could do that for just one spot. You could do it for multiple spots too, right? Or your body as a whole, but just focusing on these perceived flaws and talking so much shit and scrutinizing your body and yourself. It's on replay over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's like a persistent negative thought, but it's also like this all or nothing thinking too. And I see that's like one of the things of the body positive versus body neutrality kind of stuff, where that's one of my gripes with it too, is like, we have to be body positive. So it's all there. Right. And so you might as well all love your body. So if I don't love my body, like I'm going to obsess on these little divots that I don't like. Like I've got I've got a client, for example, who just her thighs, she doesn't like when they touch. She doesn't like when it's like, but they've always touched. Well, no, when I was leaner, they didn't touch. Okay. But now like you're in a different body, you're in a different lifestyle, you're in a different spot. And when they didn't touch, you were like pretty dysmorphic with your behaviors. And so it comes back to like this perceived thinking of past me versus current me versus where I should be, where I'm not. But then I have to do all of these things in order to achieve that. So like, for example, your friend back in the day, like I have to do all the things to achieve this. Like I have to look perfect. And then I got the validation. It's like, well, you got the validation because I'm sure you told her at some point, like, yeah, you look great. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Like that didn't change how she felt about herself.
Oh no. I mean, she, in my perspective, she just had a lot of insecurity, obviously, in herself. I'm guessing she struggled. She was very anxious around her appearance.
Oh.
And it was projected, she was open about it, which like for you would not be. For me, I have been and it was almost maybe for me too, a little bit more comfortable to express my own shit because she was doing it. Right. And then Adrian's just there like, how the fuck did I become?
Like, why am I the one solving this?
Right. But it creates so much shame. And I think about your all or nothing, because when I was like thickly lean, it was all.
Yeah.
Right. And that was it. It was everything I did. I did events and I expected people to tell me how good I looked.
Really?
I'd go to these like Vicara events, 45 events. Like what a fucking blown up head.
Yeah.
That's how I got reassurance. But once I got anywhere out of, so let's go back to my little belly button, out of like what was acceptable was nothing. I was nothing. It was rough, man.
It was well, I'm thinking same, like if I didn't do it exactly perfectly, then my body would reflect that, which is not true. But
Mhm.
I was so much shame internally. And
Yes.
so yeah, when someone would recognize like, oh, you're so healthy. Oh, you don't, of course you don't eat that. Oh, of course this, blah, blah, blah. It almost gave me more anxiety because now I had to uphold that standard for myself.
Mhm.
And that was hard.
There was probably a year and a half, 2 years after my very distorted body
Yeah.
that I was terrified that people I made up in my head that people were talking about me gaining weight back, that people were thinking like, how could she be in this industry if she can't even
Yeah. Do
uphold her
unpacking.
own like leanness?
Uh-huh.
And at the time, we didn't have us, right?
Mhm.
And we didn't have people to talk, like even the people in the physique world, like they know if they have a good coach and they're emotionally intelligent, like you shouldn't be that lean all year long, right? But in my brain, I'm that all or nothing thinking was like, no, but I can.
Right. I'm different.
I'm different.
I'm
And
different.
I'm not. And now it's crazy. It's so crazy. And we're going to walk you through the steps. I'm just like, God, I'm so free. It's like, it's just, and I talk about something. It's so awesome to be where I'm at now. And just look at my body and be like, okay, I want people to be like, you look like you can kick my ass. I'm like, well, because I can. Not you look lean, you're so thin.
I
Gross.
think from my perspective, I'm so happy that again, I still have some of this, but it's just in a different evolution now. And I think a lot of it has been neutralized because I literally look at my body now and I'm like, there's nothing I can do. Like I literally cannot try and get lean right now. There is literally like a fucking human
Oh,
in
you're
me.
talking about your
Yeah.
specific body right now. Okay.
Yeah. My specific body right now. And so, but what happens, and so with some of my clients who are going through pregnancy or going into it and their body's changing, that dysmorphia takes over for themselves. And
Right.
I don't mean to compare me to them or anything like that, but when I hear them talk and I get off the phone or get off the call or get whatever, I just think, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I don't have to deal with that anymore, or for right now, right? Or I feel so happy that I like really
You feel
worked on.
gratitude.
Yeah, I'm very grateful that my obsession is not necessarily with my body and how it looks. My obsession is, can I still keep up with 3 days a week? Can I still get now 4 to 6K steps a day? My obsession has become more towards the education of what's happening and what's changing, which, is like, is it a little overboard? Yes, probably. Right. But I'm also enjoying the learning aspect of it and the collaborative approach, where that also lets me be able to take that and apply it to clients.
Right.
Whereas I feel like if I was more focused on the body image of how you look when you're pregnant, that's going to be taken over and applied to clients, right?
Yeah.
What you're invested in tends to apply. So like for these bodybuilding coaches, they're invested in the body and how it looks. They're applying that kind of mindset to clients, unfortunately. And so and there is a fear, I'm not going to lie, like postpartum, like what is that going to all look like? But I'm trying to be like, we just got to get to the birth part, like, and then get through this part and then this part. Like, let's not get there because you don't even know what that looks like, to be honest.
Well, you won't
But
know what it looks like until it does. And every
right.
moment that it does, you have to accept that moment.
Well, and I can't control any of it. So like even thinking about like, I literally cannot control my weight gain. I'm still at the same calories I was for the last 10 months. Like so where is the weight coming from? It's coming from a baby,
Right.
So I have a question for you. What is the association between like the self-harm and trigger warning, suicidal thoughts? Is that what we're saying now? I don't, because there's like the undead myself or something like that.
Dead myself mindset.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Just you can call it as it is.
Okay. Like, what do you think it's because of the amount of pressure people feel to have their body a certain way, or the amount of anxiety or the social isolation that they feel? So then that leads to the depression.
Well, it's kind of all of those things, right? So if we
Mhm.
look at, how our beliefs affect our behaviors would affect our outcomes, which then exacerbate our emotions. If I believe that, I'm coming from, so as a core, I'm in a less than, I'm not
Mhm.
good enough. And then I'm projecting that onto my body, right? My behaviors around my body are keeping me from social connection, love, and safety, which is what we need to, and purpose, right? What we need to feel human.
Yeah.
Then that is only going to exacerbate more feelings of anxiety, of shame, of depression, which is only going to make my belief stronger.
Mm.
And we get over and over and over and over into that cycle. And if our anxiety, when I see self-harm, oftentimes it's just to feel something
Ah, okay.
where I feel very numb, right?
Uh-huh.
And my nervous system at some point can go into that freeze state and very much numb out, disassociate, and self-harm
Mhm.
can be a way for people to feel. I saw that a lot. The relief of pain,
Yeah.
of other aspects of self-harm that I will not talk about, um, is a way to feel again,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
In regards to suicidal ideation or attempts, it's the depression, the lack of purpose, the feeling of helpless and hopeless taking over,
Mhm.
right? So that's how this pattern becomes just, this is the pattern I struggle with, to now there's no way out. Now there's nothing I can do. I've taken all of my autonomy away. There's, it's a helplessness and hopelessness that comes with it,
Hmm.
and ultimately major depression from it. So it's very sad that, you know, body dysmorphia is, as we said, an anxiety, a mental health issue. It's an anxiety disorder.
Mhm.
Um, we have to think, like, with social media, with photoshopping. Here's another thing. I talked about this in my body image workshop, is that we also have to think about body dysmorphia in our digital selves are
Mm.
increasing because of, we're using Facetune, we're bringing our waist in, we're using 0.5, so we're stretching ourselves out. So we are creating this false sense of self
Yeah.
in photos
Right.
of us, and then trying to strive to become that person. And we're seeing an increase in cosmetic surgeries, to look like our digital selves. Obviously, social media is increasing the onset of body dysmorphia, right?
Right.
And it's, as I was going to say, like, it's getting worse and worse. Whereas, 100 years ago, did people struggle with this? Yes, because it is a form of obsessive compulsive disorder, right? It lives in the
Right.
same family as OCD. Uh, but as we continue to project these false images online and creating an unrealistic standard of beauty, this is just getting worse and worse. And, you know, for women specifically, I learned this the other day, that you're talking about postpartum. I think about perimenopause. In
Mhm.
perimenopause, we see a lot of shifts in our mood, our anxiety, our depression. I learned the other day that women, I believe it was 45 to 52, had the highest level of suicide
Really?
in America, or in this study. So, of all psychological practices, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Mhm.
So we just talked about beliefs, behaviors, outcomes, emotions. Cognitive behavioral therapy is how we begin to manage body dysmorphia. Now, body dysmorphia, as they say in the psychology world, cannot be cured. It is a
Really?
very, it's a very difficult diagnosis. And again, if we're thinking about obsessive compulsive disorder,
Uh-huh.
that's also, you know, there are skills to learn, there are things in place that you can do, but like, my brain still goes to negative place. I just have behavior, I'm cognitively aware, and then have behaviors in place to reframe for my brain to get out of that path.
Yeah.
Or that spiral,
Mhm.
right? So our method is very much designed from a cognitive behavioral perspective, as well as an attachment and codependency perspective.
Mhm.
So we want to first just be aware. And this could right now, because you know, a lot of people with body dysmorphia are in that unconscious incompetence place. They're there and they have no clue that they're doing it. They feel helpless. They don't even know that they need to change it. But something will happen and they will become aware of it, right? So once we have that awareness, whether it's your best friend at 19 telling you have body dysmorphia, or what was your awareness? When did you learn?
It was went after surgery. So when was that?
Oh, yeah.
2018, 2019?
That surgery saved your fucking life.
I know. Cause no one told me. Well, like my parents wrote that letter, but that was like, fuck you guys. And then Michael, being Michael, pacified the situations that created the conflict. And literally it was, no one told me. And honestly, at that time, like thinking about it, I don't think I would have said I had like body dysmorphia. It was more so of like, I just got to work on this. Right. So
I knew, I didn't know. Like she said that, but like,
was it like but like you just don't get it? 'Cause that's
no,
what I would always feel like is, yeah, but you don't get it. Like you don't understand, like this is my lifestyle.
I can't explain it.
Yeah.
I truly couldn't see it.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like I couldn't see it. So I don't even think like at the time. So say I had a friend like Adrian at the time that would have told me that, I still wouldn't
It
have.
wasn't mad at her.
No, I wouldn't be mad at her, but like I don't think I would have changed or thought about it. I think I would have just been like, okay.
It turned my mind towards this idea, but I'm a psych major at the time.
Right.
So
it's conflicting.
Well, no, I mean, it was confirming.
Oh, see,
Because if I'm going to believe in this practice that I'm going to be
right
going into, I have to believe
right.
that I too, coming from my background, could
Yeah.
struggle with this shit.
Yeah.
And so the first step is notice. And in our program, it's the no phase. We actually have a notice step, but for now, we want to just take a time to reflect, to sit and not think about, like, even if you're in a check, maybe we should talk about what body checking is. I know we kind of talked about it. So like squeezing your body, kind of sucking in, or doing the thing with your pants where you pull them out to see like how far they go. What other body checks?
Looking in the mirror, like lifting up your shirt, looking at your belly.
Flexing. This one was my favorite. Where you have to flex to make sure you have abs.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah.
I still do it sometimes.
Or just like checking, like passing, like you said, passing by a mirror, looking for every 2 seconds.
Yeah. So maybe you start with, okay, what are my body checks?
Right.
And you write those down. In our program, we have our rules and expectations, right? So that's going to help us we have our body image assessment first and foremost. So that's going to give us a good understanding. Our rules and expectations are also going to give us a good understanding. Our inner critic is going to give us a good understanding of kind of helping our client recognize and reflect on this. But for those of you not in our program, keep a journal about your experience. The more awareness you have about where you're at, the better able you're going to be able to change it. And this is hard when, like I said, it makes me sad to talk about this.
I know. I'm kind of melancholy.
Yeah. Because I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it.
Well, and that's why, so like you said, journal, I would say, so I'm not a journal girly. But I think another saving grace that has been for me is literally having my gratitude journal. Because so like it hasn't really come full circle for the gratitude journal in this part of my life until like the last 3 to recently years, or so until 3 years ago, because I would just put it in there. And then you can't really go back and like reread your gratitude journal. It's not really how the app works that I use, at least. But now the things are starting to pop up from 5 years ago
Mhm.
of like, I would say like, you felt this way and like, good thing, blah, 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 like giving yourself that acknowledgement and then the reframe. So identifying the patterns like you're talking about and then restructuring how it became. And I would put that in there. And it's literally like maybe 2 sentences, if that. And
Mhm.
so now when I'm able to see it, I'm like, oh my gosh, you were in a really bad spot, but that was one thing that helped me of like, I'm getting it out, right? Because again, for me, mine was so internal
Right.
that there was no source to get it out. And I think this is too where we have to be cautious of, I'm not saying don't share this, but I'm saying let's be cautious about who we share it with. Because for
Mhm.
example, for going back to the friend that you were talking about, like if you shared this with her, it might become more of like that binge bond that we've talked about before,
Mhm.
of like this bond over hating ourselves. And then it's like, now, well, she doesn't like that part. I don't like this part.
She's
Or like,
confirming how I feel. I
she's
can confirm
confirming.
that.
Yeah. And so it's just exacerbating that thought and feeling. And so it's really hard, but I think being aware is hard, but then recognizing like, I can't do this anymore, or this
Mhm.
isn't, I don't want to say it's not right, but it's not okay to think this way and treat myself this way. And then also I need to recognize now when I do it, but what is my method for recognizing? Because it's just like for us, you have to have a way of like creating that barrier
Mhm.
between the two.
Disconnecting.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
disconnecting yourself from it. So because you're not like I couldn't see myself as I was, that's not going to be where I focus.
Right.
I need to focus on how I feel, the thoughts I feel when I'm looking in the mirror, because those were very, very well known. Like,
Mhm.
I would pick myself apart, and think that I looked X way when I really looked Y way, right?
Right.
And so like you're saying, taking that information, understanding the patterns. So the patterns could be the checks,
Mhm.
right? Or the avoidance.
Mhm.
Didn't go to this party. Again, our body image assessment does all of this. Is
Right.
there situations where you would avoid blah, blah, blah? We even talk about, do you ever feel like you can't be naked in front of a server? Like we get very granular. But yes. So once we have that data, we need to be able to begin, as you're saying, write it down, put it on paper. It's gonna sound terrible,
Mhm.
and you might cry, and you might feel more shame towards yourself.
Mhm.
Be prepared for that.
Mhm.
And then, like you're saying, so explain it again. So I write down, I'm a fat piece of poop.
Yep.
And then you would write a reframe.
For me in my gratitude journal, I would say you felt let's go to cookies, obviously. Um you had the 5 cookies and you felt like shit and you were going to go work out, but instead you went for a walk and you talked out loud to yourself.
Gotcha.
And that's it.
So
Like it would be that simple.
mhm. You could do that. Absolutely. You could also, because I think that's probably more advanced
Mhm.
down the line. You can do, I'm a fat piece of poop.
Like being
This
more
feels
in
terrible coming out of my
Well,
mouth.
being more in the so let me go back to what I would say when I was on the walk as opposed to the reflection back in the
Mhm.
gratitude journal. So, say I had the 5 cookies and I have the 5 cookies. What the fuck, Amanda? Like that's going to change your total body comp. Like you should be aware of that. Like now look at you. Like you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to be softer. And so I wake up tomorrow. Oh, I look softer. Of course, like I'm going to keep looking in the mirror. What I want to do is like keep looking in the mirror, keep looking in the mirror. Instead, I'm going to turn away from the mirror and go, this isn't helping me.
Yep.
And I'm going to say that out loud.
That's,
This isn't helping me. There's literally nothing I can do right now.
yep.
I'm going to go for a
Good.
walk.
That is so simple. If we can recognize, like, I'm I'm talking to a toxic ex
Mhm.
right now.
Mhm.
And if a toxic ex was talking to me, I would walk away. Hopefully. Some people in the situation might not. But turning away from the mirror, this is not serving me right now. What we didn't do there, I'm so beautiful, I love my body.
Yeah.
No.
Manifest.
We just said, yeah. You'd said it like so precise. We have to create a barrier.
Yeah.
And if we can just say, as I say all the time, we're not doing this shit right now.
Yeah.
It's my favorite because I believe it. I'm not doing this shit right now. Looking at myself in the mirror right now does not do anything for me.
Right.
And I might have to do that over and over and over again at first. But the more that I do it, I can stack my wins in being able to do that. And the more wins I have, the more confident I am in doing just that process, right? But then as my client told me, because I teach that lemon trick all the time. Think of a lemon. Think of something you can bring all 5 of your senses into and just think of something else. We're not thinking about positivity in our bodies and how we're literally just thinking of motherfucking lemon. She goes, I just changed my thought. I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
And but other people will be like, no, find something nice about it. Yes, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But just
Get
that.
there.
So,
Right.
Yeah. So absolutely what you said. And that's going to start creating this restructuring of that neural pathway, right? Your brain is already starting to change the way that it works, right? Now, again, there's no quote unquote cure for body dysmorphia, but we are adapting, right? We're adapting to our reality. And that reframe of this doesn't serve me, as you would say, or this isn't healthy for me. I'm not fucking doing this right now. My other favorite one is I don't have fucking time for this right now. Like, this is how I talk. I don't have time for this right now. And then it's like, okay, we don't have time for this right now. Confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's my mind. And it felt so out of my control at one point, but like to be on this side and be able to be like, nope. And literally it's like earlier today, I was like, stop. No. And then what we would do with that is then in the reframe process, then as we're feeling confident in our ability to even know that we have control over the thought, that's where that turning away from the mirror comes. I know I can control this, right? I can, because I just noticed how I turned away from the mirror and said, stop. The more I do that, the confidence, then I can start adding the things, right?
Yeah.
My favorite activity is, what do you love about I did this with a client the other day. Not what you love. What do you like about your body? She's like, I can't think of anything. I go, well, do you get your nails done?
Yeah.
She goes, yeah. I go, why? I go, do you love that you have nail beds to get your nails done? She goes, yes. All right, write it down. I go, do you like your earlobes? Actually, yeah, I really like my earlobes. Great, write it down. You know what else? I like my calves. Great, write it down. We're going to, in the process of turning away, say, focus on my earlobes, focus on my eyelashes, focus on my nail beds, focus on my calves. Come back to the mirror, focus on those earlobes. Now, this is hard. But the thing I say about this is, once we open the door to accepting something about our bodies, we create an opportunity for more, right? And so that's a gratitude practice, which you've touched on. So tell people about like the gratitude practice.
I would say keep it simple. Also, so write down, like, for example, so going back to the mirror, this isn't helpful right now. My gratitude for that day would be like, you went in the mirror, you said this isn't helpful, and you walked away.
I love that.
Like,
I love
that's
a
it.
process.
Yeah.
I love a process gratitude versus content gratitude.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be more. Like, it was just like, wow, you did that.
No, I have gratitude that I can pick up my elderly dog and put her in a car, right? The more that we've created the confidence knowing we have control, or we can control our thoughts. Once we know we can control our thoughts, we can then add these things, the practice of looking in the mirror and looking at something we accept, the practice of having gratitude. And then we can incorporate with both. We're already incorporating both of those things into what we talk about in our program, which we do not have a body love for your body perspective.
No.
We come from a place of self-respect. And so then through this process, we always want to start with the mindset. Not until then can we say, okay, how can I respect my body today?
Right.
The minimum of love is respect. You can't love someone if you don't respect them. So when we're talking about body love, the fuck does that mean? Like, respect comes with commitment. Did I talk about this already?
No.
Commitment, empathy, compassion, care. I'm missing one. And safety. So we have to establish all of those things in ourselves before we can call ourselves, I tell ourselves we love our body, or even body positivity, right? We can respect our bodies and move in a way that supports us and rest in a way that supports us. Feed ourselves nutrient-dense foods and feed ourselves foods that we love. And when we do that, we create that sense of self-respect. And through all of that and over time, again, you're adapting to the disorder rather than the disorder kind of controlling you.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done.
Something to think about on the respect versus love thing too is I think respect items that we're talking about are much more tangible or apparent, because a lot of people this goes back to like the progress kind of illusion. There is no progress, but when we actually talk about what's changed and what's happened, you can see the progress, but it has to be broken down microscopically.
Mm-hmm.
And so going back to the respect thing, I can respect myself by turning away from the mirror and being like, this isn't helpful. And then, okay, so now I have a data point for that. I can respect myself by going on a walk instead of beating myself up because of I'm not accepting of my body today and I wanted to change today from that workout. Okay, so I can respect
myself by I can put the pants on that I know I feel good in instead of
the same ones that show like I am fat or overweight.
Or I put on and I feel like shit in, right?
Yes. Whereas the love, like when they talk about body positivity and love your body, love it, it's so nebulous that there isn't any, like, how do you determine love for your body? And
can I interject real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
And if I've never experienced unconditional love, how the fuck
yeah
am I going to feel like, oh,
right,
body positive? No.
Right.
That's a whole nother conversation, which you can probably find an episode on.
Yep. But that's why like you can't like love is more of a feeling, right? I feel loved because of XYZ. But like you said, if I've never had that feeling or I scarcely get that feeling and I don't know how to like getting out of bed does not mean I love myself anymore. Getting out of bed means I respect myself because I got to get to the gym. And that's my goal, for example. So,
well, and through this respect process, you can find love. You can't find love without the respect process.
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, you can love somebody, but they're a shitty ass boyfriend and they don't respect you. It's the same thing.
Well, no, I mean, but is that love?
Yeah. No,
it's codependency.
It's Hannah's mother.
Yes. Or Hannah. Good. So just to bring it all back together. So notice and reflect.
Yep.
That could be a journal or a list or just kind of a ongoing thought in your brain. Okay, I realized, I pinched myself today, or I did that suck-in thing, or I went past the mirror and had to come back. Reflect when we're in that position or when we're in that cycle in front of the mirror. Then we can turn our mind towards something different. Anything different. I think that's really important. You can go pet your dog and not have any conversation about your body afterwards, but just learning I can stop and do something different. Do something different. Turn away from the mirror. This isn't respecting me. Then we create a reframe. Once we do that enough and create space between unconscious incompetence, so I don't know I have a problem, to unconscious competence, I have a problem, I don't know what to do with this, to conscious competence. Now I've done this enough and turned my mind away that I can begin to consciously create that reframe of we're not doing this today. And then eventually it will become unconscious competence where we don't have to think about it as much.
Mhm.
Again, this does not mean we don't still have the thoughts. For me, they're not as loud. I don't know if what I see in the mirror is true still to this day, which I don't really care. Because whatever I see in the mirror, I just choose to accept.
Right.
Right? I could look like, a supermodel and just choose to accept whatever that image is today. What I mean by the supermodel is my body could look like a supermodel and I see it as an average female and I just accept that.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. So did I leave anything out of our little checklist?
No, I think it's important though that you recognize that, not you specifically, but those of you listening and that us too, our guests, recognize that this ebbs and flows too.
Yes.
Like some days we feel like we look better than we did yesterday. And that doesn't mean that, oh, I'm on the upswing. But it also doesn't mean the downswing is coming. When is it coming? It just means tomorrow I could wake up and be like, yeah, I'm just not feeling it today. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to always be this progression of excellence or feeling great about your body. It just ebbs and flows. And that's okay.
I agree. Awesome. Well, if you are someone who is interested in working through these steps with coaches who are not only have their own experience in creating change around body dysmorphia or negative body image, but also come from a very compassionate and caring place, check out our show notes below for our Clarity Call link. We have both group and one-to-one coaching offerings for you. Please give us a follow on Instagram at The Mindset of Matter Coaching and fitbyamanda.az. You can also follow us on our YouTube channel, which has amazing shorts, thanks to Amanda, at the Mindset of Matter channel there. And this whole thing is exactly why we created the following slogan that we want you to remember.
What you say in the mind,
you see in the mirror. Goodbye.
Bye.